No, we'll hear his first arguments as a Supreme Court justice today.
Here to talk about what's in store for Kavanaugh and the court, our legal analyst, Wendy Patrick. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. Okay, we're going to get to Kavanaugh, a lot to talk about there in a moment. But breaking news this morning, was this a surprise? UN Ambassador Nikki Haley just resigned her post. She's, in fact, meeting with the president in the Oval Office in about 10 minutes from now. Your reaction to that?
I cannot wait to hear the backstory. You know, it's amazing with all the leaks that we suffer through with this administration that this wasn't leaked. So it'll be interesting to hear exactly why and what led to this and who's in the wings to replace it. And basically, was it a long time coming or was this a surprise decision? And if so, based on what?
There's always a whisper.
Yes.
There's always a whisper.
Somebody always hears something. Absolutely.
But there was
right.
nothing with this?
It sounds like we're hearing it at least here for the first time, and I can tell you my inbox just blew up with emails about it, so a lot of people that are generally considered to be in the know are just now finding out themselves.
And she actually, she wrote a public op-ed in September when the New York Times had that secret op-ed and where she said, quote, "I don't agree with the president on everything. When there is a disagreement, there's a right way and a wrong way to address it. I pick up the phone and call him and meet with him in person." Basically, this was when everybody was saying it wasn't me, it wasn't me.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
So now we're going to wait and see what happens in that meeting at 7:30.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm sure that everybody's waiting with bated breath to hear what it was.
Yeah, that bombshell just dropped a few minutes ago. Okay, let's talk about Brett Kavanaugh. He is now officially on the job, first day on the bench. What kind of cases is he looking at today?
Well, this is why that's such a great question. With all of the hot button issues that were debated and discussed at his confirmation hearing, the types of issues that are currently on the docket are not nearly as interesting. So he's looking at things that have to do with detaining immigrants, that have to do with criminal sentencing, things that, while certainly are important to Americans, are not nearly as explosive is the kind of issues that were discussed at the hearing. Abortion, of course, being the number one. But you're right, it's his first day on the job today. He's officially taken his seat. His two daughters got a pass from school, so they've gone from the classroom to the courtroom as they get to sit and watch him on his first day in office.
Could you take us to like what I thought about this morning, like what his day would be like? Where is he walking into? I'm sure he's met all the other justices. Do they have a meet and greet? How does it work today? Is he going to get along with everybody?
Shawley, they go by the principle that good fences make good neighbors. They are friendly and they are cordial, but they don't really mesh personal and professional.
Really?
Right, and that's one of the reasons why you've heard about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's friendship with Justice Scalia. You heard a lot about that, probably a little more sensational than it really was, precisely because they really do maintain their independence. We saw the ceremony last night. They are welcoming to him. They're all going to get along. That's what they have to do. They may write scathing dissents, but if you ever see the way they interact, they are friendly, and I think he's going to very much enjoy his time there.
Another thought that I had, and I was in a discussion with somebody about this, is given what we have seen happen to him over the past few weeks, how do you move forward from that? I mean, people, whether you agree or not, you carry that with you wherever you go. No?
That's right. Well, you do, but you do move on because the issues that the Supreme Court decides are so weighty. And I mean, Clarence Thomas had to do this. Think about the generational divide as well on the court. Remember that Neil Gorsuch is the baby of the bunch at 51. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is 85. Justice Breyer is 80. Now, what does that mean? That means we may be sitting here discussing another Supreme Court nomination before 2020. But the fact that they have all been doing this for as long as they have, and remember, Kagan actually hired Justice Kavanaugh at Harvard, they're going to get along just fine. Right. This is more sensational for us than it is for them because they're discussing about the issues of the day because the entire nation looks to them to interpret law. So they've got other things on their mind than what Brett Kavanaugh did in high school.
So I'm curious because you mentioned a lot of the hot button issues are not on the docket immediately for the Supreme Court, but they will be eventually. Yes. What's on the track in the future, in the next 6 months to a year? Do we know what's coming down the pike in terms of what the Supreme Court will have before them?
We know there are cases that involve religious liberty, for one. And it's a great question, Raul, because some have speculated that maybe Chief Justice Roberts might not bring those cases forward immediately and wait for the temperature to drop a little bit, for that hot seat to cool that Justice Kavanaugh has just assumed. But yes, there are cases coming down the pike that will deal with issues regarding reproductive rights and religious liberty and guns and net neutrality. You can't get away from that. That's why we have the highest court in the land, is to decide the hot button issues.
Right.
But the majority of the cases they discuss would not in and of themselves ever make headlines, and that appears to be what's going to be discussed today.
Yeah.
You talk about that hot seat. Is there any chance that you think Democrats will even make an attempt to impeach Kavanaugh?
I think it's highly unlikely, and here's why. I know I've heard the same noise that you have about, well, we're going to conduct a fair and full investigation when we take over the House or the Senate. To what end? That's
Exactly.
the question they have to answer. To what end? And when they're pressed on that, they say, many of them, they do not want to pursue impeachment. What would that even look like? And can you imagine the chilling effect that would have on anybody seeking office, that you could at any time be impeached, not for what you did in office, which is the normal course of business, but for something you did back in high school if you were dishonest about it in the current time. That's what they're saying. So I think the chances are low. I would say zero. It's never happened. There was somebody that was, the articles were drawn up 200 years ago, but that was never followed through on. This is not the kind of precedent even the Democrats want to set. They've got more things on their plate and more important things than this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Wendy, Patrick, thank you. A
Thank
lot of
you.
stuff going on. Literally even minutes before you sit down. Thanks for being here.